precautions. Of course, this is a bizarre event that's unfolding in front of all of us, and we want to get a closer look and see what's going on. But make your health and your safety the priority in this situation and try to avoid contact with this smoke.
Yeah, a bizarre, unprecedented event. Now, what we're looking at now, just to be clear, this is a tape from earlier to show you the conflagration that began around 6:30, about 50 minutes ago. This is how intense it was. Again, now we know. We didn't know at the time. Initially, we thought it was a car fire, and perhaps it may have started that way and then spread into this plastic conduit, which acted really like a bomb. Plastic is, again, made out of petroleum, so it was essentially like gas fueling the fire. This is back to the live picture, and the process of turning the cars around has begun. That's really, we're sorry for the inconvenience to the people who got stuck in this traffic. That's really the least of everyone's worries at the moment.
Yeah,
but
sorry
there you
about
see
that,
our
Ryan.
Fox
I
5
didn't
traffic
notice.
camera, people turning around at 17th Street. These will be people from the northbound lane turning around back toward the downtown connector where it merges with I-85. So eventually those folks are going to get home.
How you doing,
They're going to have a story to tell, and they're going to be people who are going to be sitting in traffic in Metro Atlanta for weeks to come, it would seem, as we get used to making our way around this hole in I-85, using the perimeter and I-20 to get to our destinations, because this is going to be really something we've never seen before.
Yeah, it's pretty epic. Taking a look at the pictures now from Sky Fox 5, this is an encouraging visual. You can see here where we're seeing more white smoke as opposed to the black smoke.
Right.
That's an indicator that perhaps this fire is more so contained. It seems to me that the chunk of freeway that fell down in the Midtown area was able to smother out some of the flames beneath it. And firefighters, of course, have been spraying water in the area. So it appears, here's a picture from earlier for a point of comparison.
Right.
You could see all that black smoke. That's when the fire itself was raging. It appears now that the fire is being extinguished, that firefighters are making some progress in that effort, and that the white smoke is a sign that perhaps we're getting closer to the end of the flames.
Progress. Okay, let's take a look at really our first good pictures underneath the bridge. You can see what looks like a relatively small column of flame, given how large this grew into, and it looks to, there's cylinders in the foreground. Could they be the things that caught fire? It was hard to imagine what could have been fueling that kind of intense fire for that period of time. I mean, it was a half an hour, Sine, of nonstop blast under both sides and coming up through the middle between the north and southbound lanes for a half an hour before the interstate finally collapsed in that area.
Absolutely. And not only is this affecting the roadways, it's also affecting MARTA at this point. So really traveling through the Atlanta area, particularly if you need to get through Midtown or Buckhead, it's all problematic right now. Right now, firefighters' primary effort is on getting the fire extinguished. It looks like that process is underway and that they're progressing there. Secondly, they're trying to get these cars turned around. But I-85, this major artery through our area, is gone for now. A portion of it has completely collapsed.
And it was so close, is so close to the MARTA train yard. It didn't look like any of the trains there were compromised in any way, even though they were relatively close to the fire itself. But there is a MARTA track that goes through there that comes down from the perimeter area, the perimeter mall area, down 400 along I-85. So really just to the top and to the right of your screen as we're looking at it there, and then makes its way down across at 17th Street there near 75 and then down through downtown. That's one of the MARTA lines that goes north and south. Obviously, that's not going right now because the black smoke and the fire threatened all of that. So we don't know at this point when MARTA might get back. It doesn't look like the fire got close enough to the MARTA tracks to damage them, but it certainly wouldn't be safe to resume MARTA at this point.
Most certainly. Well, this is, we're continuing to take a look at some of the video from earlier today, right as 85 was collapsing during the evening rush hour. Unbelievable situation, unbelievable images. Again, we just want to reiterate, this is an area you need to avoid at this point. If you live in the Midtown or Buckhead areas, you need to take some precautions with all of the smoke that's filling the air right now. And just know that some of the smoke, especially when you're breathing it in the quantities that have been released today, can be quite toxic. So please try to stay inside and keep your windows closed.
Yeah, we wish we had more information to share with you about the cause of this fire. We're not bothering fire investigators at this point because they've got their hands full making sure the rest of this goes out. This is not a live picture. These flames are from earlier. That smoke is from earlier, but it gives you a sense of what led to the catastrophe that we're witnessing. Again, the northbound lanes of I85, which is essentially a bridge in that area near the Buford Spring Connector and Piedmont Road going over Piedmont Road. It's gone. You can see that section essentially melted after a full half an hour of thousands of degrees of heat on the steel beams that were supporting that northbound lane. The southbound lane got plenty of heat as well. So engineers will certainly be looking to see whether those lanes were compromised, whether the steel beams underneath those lanes were melted in any way. So we may be looking at a large construction project in both directions.
Yeah, well, thank God all of the firefighters who have been fighting this fire are confirmed to be okay at this point. They were not underneath the roadway when it collapsed, which is excellent news. We're monitoring Twitter right now and getting some images in. It appears there were some big spools of flexible PVC underneath the freeway, and at this point, some are pointing to that as possibly the accelerant. We do know that it was plastic conduit that kept the flames going for quite some time, but some images now coming in of the spools themselves, and they were just stacked up on top of each other, so there was a lot of material there to continue to feed the fire.
Yeah, all that makes perfect sense in retrospect. We didn't know what we were looking at the time, but Skyfox 5 was over the scene, zooming into this area that we're looking at now. This is a video that's come into our newsroom from under the bridge. And this honestly looks like it was probably very close to the beginning of this fire. I mean, you look at this now, it doesn't look like the sort of thing that would threaten the integrity of the entire bridge. But it grew and grew and grew, and as Skyfox 5 zoomed in underneath the bridge, you could see the skeletons of those spools that had been holding all that fuel, essentially, that kept this fire so hot for so long, almost a half an hour, again, before it was enough to melt those beams. And then it's got to be 4 or 5 lanes there came crashing down.
Well, we want to send things back to Tom Haynes, who's in the Fox 5 newsroom and continuing to gather some new information for us. Tom?
Well, guys, just looking at these remarkable pictures with you and processing the fact that we lost a section of I-85, the interstate, the major artery that brings traffic north and south from the suburbs into downtown and from folks traveling north and south through our city. I'm on the phone now with Sergeant Cortez Stafford of the Atlanta Fire Department. Sir, just tell us what you know and where we're at in terms of the firefight. Obviously, we saw that the freeway has collapsed. What more can you tell us?
Right now, we're still trying to get a handle on the fire. It's been contained. We're trying to stop it right now from spreading to an adjacent, looks like a Goodwill store. It was going through the woods right now. Fortunately, we got on scene and saw that we had heavy fire that was possibly compromising the bridge, as you saw. And fortunately, we were able to stop all traffic on the Buford Highway Connector north and southbound, and also 85 north and southbound. I really do believe. Go ahead.
We've been so concerned, Sergeant Stafford, about the wellness of your firefighters. Can you just confirm after the collapse of 85 that everybody's okay?
Yeah, I can confirm that all our firefighters are accounted for. And when we saw this getting out of hand, fire can compromise concrete at a very high rate. It's what we call spalling, and that's exactly what happened here right now. The heat caused the concrete to compromise and expand, and sure enough, the bridge fell down. So that's where we're at right now. We saw that about to happen, and we pulled our guys back.
Tell us, Sergeant Stafford, what was fueling this fire? It looked so intense.
That's still unknown right now. We're still trying to figure out what exactly was burning. We're still trying to figure out what exactly was burning. And so that's where we are right now.
Just put it in perspective for us, Sergeant Stafford. Have you ever seen anything like this before?
No, this is the first for me, especially with the major interstate being affected right now. But we're glad that we got everybody out of the way before this bridge collapsed. Our incident commanders made a good decision to pull back and fight it back from a distance. Once we saw that there was nobody in immediate danger and got the traffic stopped, so that was a good call on their part to pull our guys back because this bridge did collapse right where some of our guys were operating.
Now, we understand that some plastics and PVC piping might be involved in the fire here. Talk to us, if you will, if you know anything about the toxicity of the smoke that's coming out and really the respiratory safety of folks around this fire.
Yeah, well, most of it is going up. Some of the wind is pushing it. Looks like northwestern. So it's not hanging low as it was in the beginning, but that's where we are right now. If you don't have any other questions, I got to run.
All right, Sergeant Cortez Stafford, we know how busy you are with the Atlanta Fire Rescue Department. So, Sine and Russ, there you have it. While most of the firefight is seemingly under control, if I can say that, when you consider that the interstate has collapsed. The great news from Sergeant Stafford is that all his firemen are okay, firemen and women are okay, and that they've gotten a large part of this fire under control. We did have concerns about the toxicity of the smoke emanating, and boy, there was a lot of it, and folks who might live or be near this area, and then, not to mention the folks that are stuck on the highway. I do have another bit of information for you about the traffic rerouting, and we took a look at the pictures from the Department of Transportation cameras earlier of traffic being turned around and being rerouted. We know that the traffic that was traveling northbound out of downtown Atlanta and toward this section of I-85 have been turned around and rerouted onto I-75 to keep away from this area. Now, we know the exits to the north of where the fire broke out and to the north of where I-85 collapsed are sort of the Lenox Road, Claremont Road, North Druid Hills Road areas, and we're assuming that the State Patrol will be using those exits to turn folks around who are coming from the northbound side of I-85 to get them off the freeway. So not only are we talking about the firefight here, but then what kind of impact this is going to have on as police work to get people away from this scene on all of the secondary roads, and especially around that Cheshire Bridge Road area. In the North Druid Hills Road area, we know that's a very, very heavily populated area, and sort of the ripple effect of how the traffic might impact areas like that.
Yeah. All right, Tom. Well, we've learned that 400 at this point, 400 southbound is closed at Lenox, yet another area to avoid at this point. At this point, the last we heard is that this was a 2-alarm fire, and my understanding is that firefighters or emergency personnel, even from Hartsfield-Jackson, have arrived there on the scene and are trying to lend a hand to these Atlanta firefighters to make sure that this situation is under control. Now,
this is the fire before the collapse about a half an hour ago. This is how intense that fire was. And it burned this way under the northbound lanes for about a half an hour. If you look just above the graphic there, you can see a little hint of the structure that I've been talking about, those spools that held some of that plastic, we think, and that acted as fuel for this fire for such a long time. But let's be clear, it's the northbound lanes that collapsed. The southbound lanes may very well be compromised because the fire clearly, as you can see from that picture from earlier, was under both sides, smoke coming out from under both sides, intense heat under both the north and southbound lanes, but only the northbound lanes collapsed, at least so far. We can confirm, DeKalb Fire's Eric Jackson confirms what Tom just heard from an Atlanta firefighter, and that is that no firefighters were injured in the course of all this. They recognized the danger in the face of these intense flames, and they were putting water as much as they could, but it really wasn't having an effect, Sinead. It seems like it had to burn itself out, really.
Absolutely. And the other good news is firefighters believe they were able to get the commuters back far enough to keep them out of the way of that bridge collapse there. So really best case scenario in terms of avoiding injuries or fatalities in a situation as severe as this one is. This video you're looking at right now, I want to point out, is from earlier. At this point, the fire is much more contained. At this point, we're not seeing all the black smoke and the yellow flames, the orange flames. At this point, it's pretty much been contained down to some light gray smoke. So significant improvement made in trying to extinguish the flames, although you've got to imagine for this fire to have been able to cause a bridge, a highway to collapse. So it was extremely hot. So hot spots are going to be an issue for an ongoing period of time. There is no way that firefighters will be able to really approach this scene and get up on it for quite some time.
All right, we just heard from MARTA and the control room, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe you just told me that MARTA confirms that there are no service interruptions. Is that right? Okay, good. That's excellent news. No service interruptions for MARTA. This fire happening now we're back to live pictures and firefighters, well, very recent pictures, firefighters underneath trying to put out the hot spots there. Again, as you pointed out, Sinead, the very good news is we're looking at white smoke now. That is an indication of the progress that they have made as compared to the billowing black smoke of before. But to the left of the picture, construction of this major interstate. I've been trying to find on Google some indication of how many hundreds of thousands of cars use this on a daily basis. It's got to be 300,000 or 400,000, I would think. I was doing some research recently about the new SunTrust Park up in Cobb, and at the rush hour up there are 171,000 cars that come through the Cobb Cloverleaf on an average rush hour. This is certainly as busy as that. In the morning, people certainly know as they're coming down 400 to merge with I85, this is often a parking lot on the southbound side, and certainly the southbound lanes are not going to be open anytime soon either, it would seem.
Yeah, well, very sadly, if you think that Atlanta has a traffic problem, we're really going to see some of the challenges that lie ahead for us with the loss of this major thoroughfare through our city. It's going to be quite a challenge in the weeks ahead getting to our destinations, particularly going from the downtown connector area up to Georgia 400. So something to think about is how will you get to work or to school or to your destination tomorrow, because you can count on this being closed for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and as you pointed out, what we're looking at, for some perspective, what we're looking at is a physical catastrophe, an infrastructure catastrophe, but it is not a human catastrophe. No loss of life in the course of all this that we know of in this fire, and that, of course, is the most important thing. What's left is an engineering problem and a patience problem for all of us, and certainly there are going to be lots and lots of inconveniences as we learn to live without this vital stretch of roadway. It's hard even to imagine, because using side streets, that's not an option. For as many cars as come down that interstate, to get off at North Druid Hills and go around that, I'm afraid not. That's simply not going to be the answer. We have the alternates. We read them before. They seem to suggest that, at least for now and for the foreseeable future, we're all going to have to get used to using the perimeter together, as if I-285 isn't busy enough.
Yeah. Certainly. But as you say, we can get past this. We can get past the structural issues. Thank goodness everyone is okay. And we certainly have to applaud the Atlanta Fire Department for their leadership in making sure that the area was clear, that their firefighters weren't there underneath the bridge trying to extinguish these flames as the bridge collapsed. So best case scenario, all things considered.
Absolutely.
Let's head out to Tom Haynes. He's back in our newsroom right now fielding some new information.
Boy, you said it, Sinead and Russ. According to Sergeant Cortez Stafford with the Atlanta Fire Department, who we spoke to earlier, the terrific and thankfully the great news in all this is that none of the firefighters were injured in this spectacular firefight in which part of the northbound side of the interstate completely collapsed as they were trying to put out these intense flames. We have Fox 5's Jacqueline Schultz, who's near the scene of where this fire has been burning. Jacqueline, we know you were consumed by smoke at one point, choking it back. What more can you tell us about the efforts to finally get this thing extinguished once and for all?
You know, when I learned that the bridge collapsed a few minutes before, I learned that. I heard what sounded like some rumblings. It sounded like some explosions. That's what I thought it was. I thought perhaps these are transformers. But then people told me it was the bridge collapsing. I might have caught it on camera, but you just heard some rumbling, just some low rumbling. And that's just completely frightening that we were so close to this. I'm about 2 blocks out from where firefighters are at the base of the bridge. Right.
Okay, we got a little buffering here. I don't know.
You know, I can say they still have a large stretch of Piedmont blocked off northbound of 85. I want to say about 6 blocks. Traffic, I can't even imagine, is a nightmare right now. Even getting down here as the flames were going. People were trying to circle around to go back northbound on Piedmont. People could not get around. And right now, as the wind is kind of blowing the smoke away, you see firefighters standing around their trucks right now. You see them trying to survey the damage. I'm not sure at this point. I haven't been able to talk to fire officials.
Okay,
What the game plan is from here on out. I can see some plumes of...
maybe they want my commentary instead. I guess not. I guess that was reaching.
Keep on coming out from where the bridge collapsed.